Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, June 3rd, and this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news.
In tonight's headlines, we report MSNBC's Casey Hunt asked Republican senators for thoughts and got very little in return.
Mark Zuckerberg struggles to defend Trump decisions to his staff.
NYPD officer is caught displaying white power symbol. What is going on with our police?
Community calls for police chief to resign following black trans man's death in police shooting.
Sherry Pie's disqualification caused Drag Race producers to be frenzied behind the scenes.
In Quarantine Quickies, we report on coronavirus facts, including testing, cases, deaths, plus due to protests, many COVID-19 testing sites have shut down. And finally, Americans versus vaccine, less than half say they would get a COVID-19 vaccine.
In good news, mom surprises daughters after 9 weeks away fighting COVID-19.
This is Pride Month, but with COVID-19, it's a no parade celebration. As we discussed Larry Kramer, the ACT UP warrior was never silent for the fight against AIDS.
In our fun and fast-paced segment, The Big Finish, we discuss Billy Santoro. Racist gay porn star calls for cops to shoot black protesters?
Glee co-star accuses Lea Michele of threatening to shit in her wig.
Wow. Ivanka sends a pride tweet at the same time her father gasses peaceful protesters for a church photo op. And also in No Context Wednesday, a pedophile says Grindr vigilante group who exposed and ensnared him violated his right to privacy.
Levi's debuts crotch-free denim chaps because they were inspired by the resilience and beauty of the LGBT community.
And finally, happy 53rd birthday to Anderson Cooper. Good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. It is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell tonight on Q News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Well, thank you for joining Q News Tonight. We are live. We've already proven we're live to you.
Nothing ever goes wrong on the show.
That's right. So anything can happen. Tonight we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBT community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, Misty Eyes, and anchor Napoleon Plays. Let's cue up the news. Tonight we bring you Q headlines. The LGBT community in America is diverse. The LGBTQ community around the world is vast. And tonight we bring you a bullet point of the Q news for today, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. We begin by queuing up Vote 2020. MSNBC's Casey Hunt asked Republican senators for their thoughts and got very little in return. MSNBC's Casey Hunt tried to stop several Republican senators yesterday to discuss Trump's gassing of Americans. Just to remind you, watch this.
Was what the president did last night at St. John's, was that appropriate? Was clearing the protesters an abuse of power? I'm sorry?
I don't have that time.
I wasn't there, so I didn't see exactly what happened. But I think that he was just trying to make a point. And it's hard in a polarized environment like this. So
you don't have any comment on what happened at the White House last night?
On the what? The gassing of White House protesters. Do they have a right?
I didn't watch that. honestly enough to know what happened there.
Senator Enzi, are you concerned at all about what happened at the White House last night?
I did not think that what we saw last night was the American.
Senator Portman, do you think what we saw last night at the White House, was it an abuse of power, what we saw last night outside the White House?
By the protesters, yes. By the violence, yes.
As you heard, many of the Republican senators could not be bothered to even comment as they walked past the MSNBC crew. Some even actually had the audacity to talk about being late for lunch rather than an action that would be considered a human rights violation if it were any other country. It isn't unfair to question where the leadership is supposed to come from when the supposed party of liberty and states' rights is allowing the president to trample on both.
I'm a Jew who is not a fan of people being gassed. That is all that needs to be said right here, and yet it seems to be about 90 years ago in America.
It's not surprising to me that they refuse to comment when you have a team that's supposed to support you, but they don't agree with your decisions. What are you supposed to say?
My only question is, will that moment be the tipping point to say enough is enough? As of Wednesday, it doesn't seem like it is.
We queer up business. Mark Zuckerberg struggles to defend Trump's decision to his staff. Unlike Twitter, Facebook has not taken any action against posts from the president that employs fear that could incite violence. Employees are outraged, and some have even quit because they claim that in the past, the Facebook CEO and co-founder, Mark Zuckerberg, had said he would draw the line at posts that could instigate violence. The decision was defended by saying that Trump was referencing policing tactics and not as a dog whistle for vigilante justice.
I see both sides of this story. I do think if they're really bad, they should be deleted, but also I believe in free speech.
I do too. However, I think the big issue here is, where is Mark Zuckerberg's loyalty in combination of free speech, but also what is morally correct and right? And Facebook has a responsibility to at least attempt, even if it is only to verbalize, to try to get it right.
And in theory, it is trying to do that. It even has fake stories of Mark Zuckerberg dying that have been quotedly across all of Google, all of everywhere for the last 3 days. And that's not true because they want to focus on the fake news aspect and being able to showcase that. Obviously, that does not matter.
Queer up the USA. NYPD officer caught displaying white power symbol. What is going on with our police? Policing in America has come under a spotlight this past week like never before, and not everything put into the light has been pretty. The NYPD in particular have come under scrutiny, with the latest incident being a police officer seemingly giving the sign for white power in the midst of trying to keep an eye on protesters. Now, audio has surfaced of the officers over their radios saying run over and shoot protesters who were preventing them from driving. We have a video for you. Watch this.
So we have a group of people blocking traffic on Albany and Dean Street. They're refusing to let the orange go eastbound on Dean Street and Albany. So we're stuck here. Run them over. Shoot those motherfucker. Don't put that over yet.
It should be noted that officers did run over protesters last week in New York.
Well, it is not a good week for police and policemen. Of course, we must first recognize this is a tiny percentage of our law enforcement officials in the United States. But my goodness, is the adage, one bad apple spoils the entire bunch. That's what's going on here.
That may very well be true, that it is just a few people, 1 in 1,000 maybe. It's still New York that we're discussing right now, and that is nearly traumatizing to hear those words said about New York City police officers.
We are in a desperate time, and it's very tragic. Is it too late to go up with the astronauts?
To get off the planet. Wow,
Literally.
That's an interesting observation.
To the moon.
We cue up the USA. Community calls for police chief to resign following black trans man's death in a police shooting. The Tallahassee Community Action Committee, a social justice group, is calling for the city's police chief, Lawrence Ravel, to resign and for body cam footage to be released following the killing of a black trans man, Tony McDade. Eyewitnesses said that the officer in question was white, but his name has yet to be released to the public. A grand jury will review the matter, which is the standard procedure in a shooting case. The officer has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the grand jury investigation.
I guess we'll just have one more police shooting, one more cop that is on trial for whatever that's worth in our country.
I am sick and tired of hearing about trans hate crimes and killings and black trans people especially being killed.
Well, the one important issue in this situation, in the call in Tallahassee, is that a call to justice be followed, completely investigated, verified, and if verified, that charges happen promptly. And that is the most important thing.
Queering up entertainment. Sherry Pie's disqualification caused Drag Race producers to be frenzied behind the scenes. 2 Drag Race producers have officially spilled the tea on behind-the-scenes action following Sherry Pie's exit from the show. Sherry, real name Joey Guglielmelli, was kicked off the show after being accused of catfishing several young actors. The accusations emerged several hours before her debut episode was to air, causing them to scramble to edit out all of her confessionals and to only air workroom scenes and challenges where she interacted with other queens. The producers say their only goals were protecting the victims and their queens in the midst of the crazy circumstances.
I'm glad they were protecting the victims, and I'm glad that they made the effort to fix the show. What she did was atrocious.
Who could have imagined that somebody would trump Willem in RuPaul's Drag Race? But
Literally.
That's what's happened here. And Sherry Pie, there's no one more upset over this situation in America than Sherry Pie, because likely she would have been the winner of season 12.
She seemed to be the likely winner of the season for sure. And as the person here that was a New York City actor, I can say the scam, if you will, that she was presenting to actors in New York City was pretty common. If people were falling for that, that's kind of on them as far as I can say. Yes, what she did was probably immoral, but did she deserve this kind of repercussion after all of what happened? I don't think I agree. Her talent speaks higher than that. And Madonna's still famous, so what does that matter?
Well, tonight let's catch up moving out of our headlines in the news surrounding COVID-19 with our quarantine quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBTQ community. We report on coronavirus case numbers for today. Based on the standard acceptance of 7% of population for the LGBT community, we report that the world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases now stand at 454,000. America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at nearly 132,000. America is the ground zero of this pandemic, and with a USA population of only 4.4% in the world, America is 29% of all of the cases on this planet, a percentage slightly lower today. We report on the coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBT COVID-19 deaths stand at 26,800, and America's LGBT COVID-19 deaths stand at 7,500 total in the United States. Again, remember that the U.S.'s population is 4.4%, but we make up 28.2% of all of the world's deaths. President Trump and Vice President Pence have said a lot of ridiculous things about testing to the LGBT community, so let's put out the testing facts. As of today, in America, 18,671,000 tests have been taken, but that number is actually dismally low. We give the government a grade of C because there are 328 million Americans, which means we've only tested 5.6% of the population, while the medical community recommends a testing rate of 10% before broad reopening, which has already begun. Despite what Trump and Pence tell the LGBT community, testing and contact source tracing is the #1 solution to pandemic. As a result, Q News Tonight recognizes our Hall of Fame top states in testing, which as of today is number 3, New Mexico, Number 2, New York, who has met the 10% threshold. Number 1, Rhode Island, which is leading the country at 15%. Q News Tonight also recognizes our Hall of Shame states doing the worst job in testing, and LGBTQ America, we hope you don't live in one of these states, which includes number 5, Ohio, number 4, Colorado, number 3, Oregon, number 2, Idaho, and we continue to report testing has basically stopped in Puerto Rico as number 1.
Quarantine quickies. Due to protests, many COVID-19 testing sites have shut down. We've prepared this for you. Watch it.
A really important heads up this morning. All Illinois community-based COVID-19 testing sites are closed today. The Illinois Department of Public Health made the announcement late last night. This decision affects locations that provide free coronavirus tests across the state. Now, some of those sites in our area include Chicago neighborhoods like Dunning and Auburn Gresham. It also affects suburbs like Rolling Meadows, South Holland, Waukegan, and Aurora.
As many fight for social justice around the country, it could have a dangerous consequence. Testing sites are shutting down across the entire country, especially in African American communities, which could see a dangerous increase in spread of the coronavirus. Although it has been cautioned that the stoppages are merely temporary, experts are concerned that any stoppage of testing could hamper efforts that have taken months to slow the virus down.
This is terrible news. I do believe riots and standing for what you believe in is important, but also being able to test is important.
It's very disturbing news because the intersection of the protests that we're watching around the United States directly affects the community that is most adversely affected by COVID-19. And it seems like the intersection is not being recognized. It's like two cars coming to an intersection where the light is flashing red for both, but both cars are running the red light. And that's what I'm fearful is happening right now.
It's very true. I don't mean to diminish anything going on with the protests towards George Floyd, because those are so incredibly important. Unfortunately, what that means is that this virus is going to spread in a set of community that is the most vulnerable, and that's going to be leveraged by Trump and his entire embassy of oligarchy rulers. And unfortunately, that's going to hurt our country and the black community more than anybody else. And that's really frustrating.
Quarantine quickies. Americans versus vaccine. Less than half say they would get a COVID-19 vaccine. We have a video for you. Watch this.
We're in a race to develop a vaccine globally, but what's also really important nationally is a huge public health effort, which has always lagged in this country. And we need to manage people's expectations about the vaccines and reset their ideas about the safety of the vaccine and what implications it could have for people. In this study that you mentioned, about 20% of people say that they won't get the vaccine. Why? 70% of these people are worried about side effects. About 40% of these people are worried that they could actually get the coronavirus from the vaccine.
A new poll by the Associated Press, which we have us on screen now, shows that 49% of Americans are willing to get a vaccine for COVID-19.
To develop a vaccine globally.
Oddly, only 65% of those who said the vaccine was essential for reopening also said they would get it. The most popular reason for being against the vaccine is concerns for its side effects.
What scares me the most among demographics was the fact that just 25% of the black respondents said they would get a vaccine, especially troubling given the recent studies that suggest that the virus impacts them greater than most other groups.
This is difficult. There are both sides to this, that we're rushing this vaccine, so of course no one wants to be the guinea pig. I've been a guinea pig my whole life. I don't want to be that person that has to take on all the side effects. And also the fact that we need this vaccine, so what are we going to do if no one wants to participate? But I will volunteer. I know that that's necessary. That's what it requires.
Well, we're going to move on to coronavirus good news.
Well, we queue up our segment called Coronavirus Good News. After we finish our quarantine quickies, we like to lighten it up. We've reported on all of the statistics and facts for the day, but now we want to report on something that made us smile. Today in Coronavirus Good News. Mom surprises daughters after 9 weeks away fighting COVID-19. In a video that has lit the internet on fire, a frontline worker fighting COVID-19 returns home to greet her 2 young daughters after 9 weeks in what can only be described as coronavirus good news. Watch this.
I really like coronavirus good news. It's an excellent story. We begin Q News tonight's celebration of June's Gay Pride Month. But this month will be like no Pride Month ever before. This year, in 2020, just a year after the largest LGBT worldwide celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, our prides this year are going to be quiet because of the COVID-19 coronavirus. This will be the year of LGBT pride, quote-unquote, no pride celebration. We bring you unique stories this entire month, even in the event of cancellations, which have occurred, of New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and dozens more. The pride of the LGBT community this year is no parades. Tonight, Larry Kramer, ACT UP founder, activist, author, and warrior. Kramer died of pneumonia last Wednesday, and a major no-holds-barred member of our community will be remembered. Kramer was the founder of the militant group ACT UP. The group was the LGBTQ's militant community for acts of civil disobedience for awareness of AIDS. Similar to today's Me Too and Black Lives Matter, long before this type of activism was occurring. Here's a reminder. Watch this.
Today's demonstration is the latest of many staged by the militant group ACT UP, which has gained increasing influence on AIDS policy. The atmosphere at the meetings and at the group's headquarters is characterized by enthusiasm and belligerence toward established institutions. Playwright Larry Kramer started ACT UP to accelerate the AIDS drug approval process.
What right does the FDA and the NIH have to tell a dying person what he or she can do with her or his body?
ACT UP's strategy has been enormously successful in getting the Food and Drug Administration to loosen the regulation of new drugs for AIDS.
Kramer realized early on the threat to the gay community in the early 80s of AIDS. Kramer created ACT UP, Fight Back, Fight AIDS. Early on, Kramer waged a bitter war with someone we all recognize today, noted virus doctor Anthony Fauci. He and ACT UP warred and accused Fauci of incompetence. In 1985, he wrote the play, The Normal Heart. He was diagnosed with AIDS virus in 1988. He wrote extensively, and eventually the perceived need was realized of ACT UP. Fauci and Kramer, interestingly, later became friends. Fauci even helped him get into an experimental drug trial. Fauci was famously quoted as saying about Kramer, "Once you got past the rhetoric, you found Kramer made a lot of sense, and that he had a heart of gold." Kramer was nominated and was a winner of a Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe Awards. Larry Kramer was 84. Larry Kramer was a pioneer in our community and plays a central role of Gay Pride Month. LGBTQ, what we call the No Prides celebration, June 2020.
Tonight we are broadcasting from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center. The museum is in Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
We joke we're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth.
And it's not a joke from my viewpoint. We would like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale for making this set in this living museum possible. We end tonight's broadcast with The Big Finish. This is a short story mention of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Q News tonight's The Big Finish. Billy Santoro, racist gay porn star, calls for cops to shoot black protesters?
In my head, I could turn this into a fantasy scene. Police shooting their loads at protesters, everyone trying to do right by civilization, the thrill of being the hero, the need to help. Life should be porn. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening here at all, and I don't want to make Billy Santoro a hero in this conversation.
No. In fact, what? Racism is real. I know that. I know that it's ingrained in our society. I don't know why I keep getting shocked when I find out somebody I know is racist.
Especially a porn star. Because they'll do anybody for money. Just for Fans, by the way, deleted his account following this action.
You should have.
You know you messed up big time when Just for Fans thinks you aren't good enough for their platform. They have some weird stuff on there. Or so I have heard from my friends. Thought bubble appearing above my head. Don't look at Napoleon Plays.
No, that's on Just for Fans, and that costs money.
The Big Finish. Glee co-star accuses Lea Michele of threatening to shit in her wig.
Girl.
I feel kind of badly for Lea Michele. I mean, one 6-year hit on top of a topping Broadway show replaced by deaf people, and she took it all on Glee. Unfortunately, that's the show. That was, what was it? Spring Awakening, which was better done 6 years later by an entire cast of deaf people. Like, that's actually the truth. That was literally her breakout with Jonathan Groff right before Glee, and then it was done better like 6 years ago. But unfortunately, talent doesn't matter, and you have to make friends at the tea party. I guess that's not what she's very good at. Apparently, she angers everyone she works with.
So, what? Is Lea Michele a drag queen? The things these girls do and say to each other backstage is unspeakable.
It might surprise you. I'm going to take a different take. It might surprise you, but I'm actually going to take Lea Michele's side here. It's not easy being the queen bitch of the universe.
True.
And having everyone come after you, I know from experience, you do what you do to remain on top.
Are you still on top?
The Big Finish. Ivanka sends a pride tweet at the same time her father gasses peaceful protesters for a church photo op.
This is why comics prevail. To do justice to this kind of story, there's no logical answer for what's going on in America right now. Fortunately, I can see it in a graphic display with sexy men that are being ripped apart on their shirts. So I'll settle for that versus the Trump story.
Bring in the hot guys, says Napoleon. Again, what? Okay, how? Wait, why? How dare she? She has no right to send a gay pride message when her father has stripped LGBTQ and transgender rights away day by day. I'm shocked and appalled.
Did you know that she carried the Bible for the photo op in her purse?
I didn't know that.
Then she handed it to Daddy right before the pictures.
And none of them burned?
I am pretty sure Ivanka would do just about anything to sell her daddy's MAGA merch. I'll leave the subtext to you, but suffice it to say, thought bubble, November 4. And I never, after that date, ever want to hear the name Trump ever again. Any of them. Even Ivanka. The Big Finish. No Context Wednesday. This is a great one. Pedophile says Grindr vigilante group who exposed and ensnared him violated his right to privacy.
I can understand the feeling of Grindr exposing you to other people that might want to take advantage of you. That happens apparently frequently. I just don't understand what's going on right here. I don't understand the LGBTQ community as far as this goes, but I'm looking forward to meeting those people on Grindr. They sound pretty fun.
Again, what? Okay, first of all, don't you have to be 18 years old to be on Grindr?
Nah.
I think you do. At least you have to lie and say you are. So why is somebody on there saying they're 13? Regardless, I'm glad personally he was arrested for talking to a 13-year-old.
The big issue for you is lying about your age?
No,
That's
I'm
the big
saying,
issue?
why would a pedophile be on the Grindr? Everyone has to be over 18.
I got it.
Okay.
Again, the big issue for you is lying about your age.
Pretty.
We had a whole conversation about
All
this
right.
before. They're both
Speaking
affiliated.
of predators, let me change the subject. I bet President Trump thought he was exercising his right to assemble when he tear gassed those protesters so he could assemble where they used to be. Great minds like this idiot in Grindr and our president think just alike, I suppose. The big finish. Levi Strauss debuts a crotch-free denim chap because they were inspired by the resilience, this is a direct quote, inspired by the resilience and beauty of the LGBTQ community.
Okay, let me just start by saying, leather expert here, as our production staff reminded me right before we came on air, no, it's always crotchless if it's going to be chaps. That's just the standard definition. But also, I'm looking at the crotch. Sell your product to me or show me you have no purpose. Thank you, next.
Thank you. Next, Ariana Grande.
I know I quoted Ariana Grande, and thank you for not saying that out loud on air.
Except for I did.
Oh my God.
Levi's denim chaps inspired by gays and their beauty, not horseback riding or cowboys. Okay, wait. Maybe they're inspired by leather bars and easy access.
The only thing more silly than chaps is they expect me to pay over $100 for less denim than regular jeans. Also, crass commercialism to pursue gay dollars. Crass commercialism. Does Ivanka and Donald Trump have a stake in Levi Strauss? The big finish. Happy 53rd birthday to Anderson Cooper.
Apparently he has the same birthday as Andy Cohen. We celebrated him like 4 hours ago. Why isn't this in all of astrology? If I want my baby's daddies to have a zodiac sign in common, hashtag I want a baby, hashtag apparently not in this world. I learned that today. Misty's looking at me crazy.
I want a baby too.
Apparently I think I do.
I do want a baby. In fact, Ellen is Napoleon's role model, and he is my role model. Come on, Mr. Anderson Cooper. You have lived loud, you have lived proud, you have lived authentic, and now you're 53 with the baby. I want to be you when I grow up.
Just yesterday, I was saying how AC squared, Cooper and Cohen, are America's real queer power couple. Now I find out they were born on back-to-back days. This is a sign, America. Hashtag AC squared. Make it trend. Seriously. Anderson Cooper has done as much as anyone in the LGBT community to make smart, cool, and sexy.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mr. Cooper.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Please click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines, so this is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the entire world. Your community needs you.
And remember, you're not alone, and we will get through this crisis together.
We are here with you, and this is Q News Tonight.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of Misty Eyes and Napoleon Plays, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night.